In the pre-post fatigue family of accumulation method, the most advanced variation is called pre and post fatigue. Basically meaning a giant set of 3 exercises. You would have 2 isolation exercises, the first one and the third one. And between both, you would have a multi-joint exercise involving the muscle worked with isolation exercise. For example, let's say I'm training shoulders. I could start with lateral raises. I would do, for example, 6 to 8 reps. Then I would move on to the overhead press, again for 6 to 8 reps. And then I would finish off, for example, with front raises. So that way I start by targeting a portion of my shoulder, lateral head of the deltoid. Then I do the main movement to integrate the shoulder in the big movement. And I finish off with an isolation exercise for the same shoulders. Now, in that specific case, I used both isolation exercises to target basically the same muscle group, the deltoid. I hit a different portion, but it's still the same basic muscle group. That works great if I really want to hammer a weak muscle to submission, if you want to call it that. So if I want to use like the ultimate hardcore strategy to make a weak muscle grow, then for example, if my chest is at my lagging point, I could start with pec deck, then do a bench press, and finish by cable crossover or dumbbell flies. So I would do 2 isolation exercises for the weak muscle. By doing it first, I increase the recruitment in the main movement. And by doing it last, I'll make sure that that muscle got fully stimulated, fully fatigued. By creating more fatigue, more stimulation, I make it grow more easily. And eventually it can become a dominant muscle. I could use a different strategy also. For example, I could start with an exercise for my weaker muscle group. Let's say it's a bench press. I could start with a pec deck machine, for example, to pre-fatigue my chest. Then I would move on to the bench press, integrating that muscle into the movement. And finally, I could finish off with a tricep exercise to finish a muscle that might not been fully stimulated. Because what happens is that if I pre-fatigue my chest before bench pressing, my chest might fail on a bench press, but now my triceps might not be fully fatigued. So by doing a tricep exercise at the end, I'll make sure that that muscle also gets maximum stimulation. Now, if all I want out of the bench press is to make my chest grow larger, that might not be the strategy I want to use. But if I want to make the whole upper body grow larger using the bench press, then the pre and post fatigue might be a very effective growth-producing method. Of course, that means that the volume of work is very high. Remember this, that for a natural trainee, volume, doing too much volume is the #1 mistake that you can make. So if you are doing the pre and post fatigue method, normally I recommend only doing 1 or 2 sets in a workout. So for example, let's say I'm planning to do my bench press, I could do the pre and post fatigue for my first set, then finish off with just 2 regular sets of bench press. But what happens is that from the pre and post fatigue set, I'm creating a lot of local fatigue. So even if I'm not doing these isolation movements in the later sets of bench press, I'm still reaping the benefits because the muscles are still enhanced. They're still pumped. They're still excited by the nervous system. So I will still get the benefit of the pre and post fatigue, even though I'm only doing it for the first set. Beware of doing too much volume. That is the #1 cause, the #1 reason why you're not growing optimally. That and lack of frequency, but that's another topic.